The Holy Gospel as it is recorded in Luke. On the journey to Jerusalem, Jesus passed along the borders of Samaria and Galilee. As Jesus was entering a village, 10 people with leprosy met him. Keeping their distance, they raised their voices and said, "Jesus, Rabbi, have pity on us." When Jesus saw them, he responded, "Go and show yourselves to the priests." As they were going, they were healed. One of them, realizing what had happened, came back, praising God in a loud voice, then fell down at the feet of Jesus and spoke his praises. The individual was a Samaritan. Jesus replied, "Weren't all 10 made whole? Where are the other 9? Was there no one to return and give thanks except this foreigner?" Then Jesus said to the Samaritan, "Stand up and go on your way. Your faith has saved you." The Gospel of Christ. Please be seated. A couple of years ago, I began experiencing chest pains, nausea, and cold sweats. As these are signs of a heart attack, Carol took me up to our local walk-in clinic, and soon thereafter, I found myself sitting in the emergency room. The doctors and the nurses were convinced that I was in the midst of what they now refer to as a heart event. And while waiting for some further tests, my mind raced to all the worst possible case scenarios that I could imagine. That's what I do when I'm not feeling secure. I think of the worst that could happen, a catastrophe. That's what I'm looking for. Anyway, while I was waiting for these tests, my fears were overriding my sense of groundedness on the planet. I felt like I was going to fly off. I was fearing that my heart was actually failing me, not something I'd ever worried about before. And I had fear that the decades of not putting my health first was finally catching up with me. And I had fear of what the future might hold and fear of impending medical procedures. As some of you know, I'm not very good with needles. And I was afraid that there was a needle coming my way. And I was afraid of not being able to work, not being able to pay our bills, especially the mortgage. And I had visions of losing our house, our home. And I had fear of turning into some sort of invalid as a result of whatever was about to happen to me. I had fear about the future, fear that it was being taken away and out of my control. And I was also very afraid that I was getting old, long before my time. There's nothing like an emergency room to strike fear into your heart, especially when the pain that drove you there is throbbing in your chest. So by the time I'd spent several hours enduring various tests, I thought I was ready for anything. That is until a young, and I do mean young, doctor came into the room. He looked like he was about 12 years old. I swear to you, he looked like a child. And a part of me wanted to say to this child doctor, "Go and find a grown-up, because what's happening to me is serious business, and I want an adult in the room." Fortunately, I managed to suppress my own ageism. You cannot even begin to imagine my delight when this child doctor pronounced his diagnosis. Gallbladder. No heart attack. A severe gallbladder attack. These kinds of attacks are quite common in people who have recently managed to lose weight. And this was my reward for losing 50 pounds. An afternoon in the emergency room, examining all my worst fears. I couldn't believe my luck. I almost kissed that child doctor. I began thanking everyone and everything for my extremely good fortune. Thanks be to God. Thanks be to medical science. Thanks be to my heart that was pounding properly. Thanks be to that child doctor. Thanks be for the opportunity to do better in the future. Thanks be for the future. And I wept. A gallbladder attack is a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's a fabulous blessing. A gallbladder attack is not a heart attack, and I could go home, I could go back to work, I could pay the mortgage, all my worst fears were gone. I would take this as a warning to never, ever take anything for granted again. And when I went outside, everything looked so beautiful. It was as if I had awakened from a nightmare. And I was so very grateful that I promised myself never again to take my health for granted, never again to take life for granted, never again to forget what a precious gift it all is. From now on, I was going to pay attention to the wonders of this amazing gift of life. Thanksgiving is about paying attention. Thanksgiving is about recognizing the wonders that we all too often take for granted. That we should set aside a holiday, a holy day, to celebrate the wonders that we enjoy every day suggests that paying attention is not as easy as it sounds. Sometimes it takes a few chest pains for us to notice the miracle that is a beating heart. Sometimes it takes the failure of our bodies for us to appreciate the marvels of our bodies. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at young girls who hate their bodies, and I want to just hug them and tell them what beautiful young women they are. We have this habit of cursing our bodies, and our bodies serve us every single day, every single moment. There's an Irish blessing that I didn't fully understand until the afternoon that we drove home from the hospital. That blessing goes like this: may you be alive until you die. I began to understand the blessing one day while I was sitting at the bedside of a man in palliative care. We were talking about his imminent death, and he asked me to pray that God would grant him a grace-filled death. He didn't want to be drugged or unconscious when he died. He wanted to be surrounded by his loved ones and aware of what was going on so that he could take his leave with dignity and with grace. He said he wanted to be alive right up until the moment that he died. I began to understand what it means to be alive until you die. But I never fully understood the blessing until the moment I realized that I wasn't about to die. Not at that particular moment, anyway. So much of our lives fly by without us really being alive. So much of our lives we live on autopilot. Our imaginations, our hopes and dreams are dulled into submission by the day-to-day tasks of getting by. But we are indeed all going to die. No wonder we need a holiday, a holy day, to remind us to pay attention. Miracles are happening all around us and in us each and every moment. We ought not to need or wait until we find ourselves in distress to remember the magnitude of blessings we enjoy each and every day. We live and move and have our being in the midst of the one who is the source of all being. Creation is the outpouring of this source. The splendors that nourish ground and sustain us in the blessed life that we live come from the love that is the source of all being. Every brightly colored leaf, each magnificent sunrise and glorious sunset is a miracle beyond our comprehension. Each and every breath we take is a miracle. Pay attention, and you will discover beauty, truth, and goodness beyond your wildest dreams. This is the kind of nourishment that can sustain us in the face of whatever may come our way. Our gratitude for the great fullness, and by great I mean G-R-E-A-T, our great fullness, our gratitude for the reality of our blessings is only the beginning of what it means to be alive. It is not enough to simply be grateful for all that we have and all that we receive. Our gratitude for the reality that our cups are filled to overflowing with blessings, this leads us to thanksgiving. Gratitude is the feeling, the emotion, and thanksgiving is the action that results from the feeling of gratitude. So on this holy day of Thanksgiving, our only concern should be the form of action that our thanks will take. In gratitude for all our many blessings, how will we respond with thanksgiving? It is not enough for us to luxuriate in the wellspring of good feelings of gratitude and then go back to our regular routines. Living our lives on autopilot is not living, it is existing. Eternal life is life which has no beginning and no end, which means eternal life is here and right now. I believe that we get close to what is meant by this word eternal life when we pay attention, when we are awake to the wonders of this life, and when we respond with thanksgiving. Gratitude for life requires our full attention. So let us enjoy the grateful emotions of this holy day. Let us luxuriate in praise and gratitude to the one who is, was, and evermore shall be. Then let us express our gratitude with action, the kind of action that flows from gratitude, the action of thanksgiving. For thanksgiving also requires our full attention. Thanksgiving is all about being filled with gratitude, fully alive, fully engaged, then responding to the blessings that are flowing in and around us, being a conduit for those blessings to others. Giving thanks moves us beyond expressing gratitude. Giving thanks takes all sorts of forms. Giving thanks is a way of being in this one blessed life that comes to us as pure gift. So may you all, each one of you, be alive until you die. This gift of life is yours right here and right now, so live it. For God is the source of life, so worship God by living. God is the source of love, so worship God by loving. God is the ground of being, so worship God by having the courage to be more fully human, more fully engaged with all of who you are. For you are the embodiment of the divine. Thanks be to God, the one who is, was, and evermore shall be, the source of all that is. May you be alive until you die.